Well, time for one more interview here on Morning Live. Now, according to the 2012 African Economic Outlook, on average, more than 70% of youth on the continent live under the poverty line. And one of the contributing factors to this is the high unemployment rate, which has been described by some analysts as a ticking time bomb. But there's hope that the African Youth Charter, which has been adopted by over 40 countries, will in fact strengthen efforts to empower the youth. So to discuss this further, we join now by Dr Shakira Choonara, who is part of the advisory board to the African Union Commission's Youth Division. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Sakina. It's great to be here.
So, Dr. Choonara, you've just recently joined this advisory board. What would you say are some of the major challenges facing Africa's youth today?
You know, whenever people ask me this question, I always say that we know the problems and we've known them for a long time. So I was actually at an AU meeting recently and I said, you know, how are we really going to make progress? I work in healthcare, but having traveled the continent, the one issue I pick up that we're sort of really missing the game with is education. We fail to give the young people on this continent a decent education. I was down in Mozambique and little children are sitting under a tree. Girls are expected to go to bathrooms that are made out of sticks or wood, and we have the same, you know, issues in South Africa as well. So I think education is definitely the key, and it's where we're missing the point. And I think also the second issue is the type of societies we live in. I was asked the other day about Tanzania, and we see what's happening there. We also see religion and culture playing a massive role. And just coming out of 16 days, another issue is gender equality or gender empowerment as well.
And then how does the advisory board actually advise on these issues affecting youth? And are you actually given a hearing?
So it is very, very new, of course. It's about 2 weeks since I went to my first meeting in Addis Ababa. The idea was basically to add a youth component to the African Union. Like you said, you know, we had the majority of the population, which is young. They've appointed the AU Youth Envoy, similar to the United Nations Youth Envoy. But what I like about this is that part of the envoy's role is to have a council as well. And the council members, which are all of us, are there to really provide the substance, that voice, etc. What's been very optimistic to see, I suppose, is looking at the African Union. When I went there, they're really putting the ball back in our court as the council, saying, you know, what do you want to do? How do you want to shape this? They're really, really looking to us. And so I think, you know, I said this the other day on another interview, I don't think I can transform the entire African Union in 2 years, but I think there are certain wins for young people and making the AU more responsive that we can definitely push.
But it has to be more than lip service, and which is why I'm asking, do you think that, you know, you are getting a hearing? Because it's not just about coming with, you know, some of the solutions that could move this particular pandemic in a positive way, but it's about having the will, the political will on the part of the AU leadership and the continental leadership to actually make a difference.
I think it's simply too early to tell for the council. You know, it's literally 2 weeks into the role, but also we officially inaugurated in February. For now, it seems very great. But my response to you would then be is, even if there isn't that political will, how do we create it? We young people, what are we bringing to that table? How do we create that space? How do we push that space?
I agree.
I'm very excited to
because you're going to have to take the space. It's not going to be given to you. And these are the realities, because you will see this in many facets, you know, even with women's movements and things like that. You literally need to carve away and eke out that space for yourself. It won't just be handed to you on a platter. But also, are all countries, are they obligated to adopt this charter, or how does it work?
So this is very interesting. The Africa Youth Charter, which I'll admit as a young person, I never read until I got to the AU, right? So already you see a problem there, right? And how do we start to popularize or make young people aware of the documents? It was created in the year 2006, actually. They then had what they call the Decade Plan of Action, which expires now at the end of 2018. And it's quite interesting that most countries in Africa, almost 99%, 98, 99% have ratified this. So we as young people need to know this charter, number one. We need to go and hold them accountable. It says all the right things. It says education, it says peace, it says youth responsibility, youth participation, employment, which we just heard the other speaker talk about. It says all of that. But if we don't know that as young people, we can't hold our governments accountable. And I think, so I'm very optimistic about the Youth Charter. I see this role as really trying to bring it closer to the youth and really having the youth own it and push for implementation.
Well, Dr. Shakira Choonara, wishing you well. This is a great space to be in. It's quite an opportune time to be in that space. So hopefully you and your peers will be able to make the waves that many other youth across the country will be looking to you for. So thanks so much for coming through, Dr. Shakira Choonara. And she is, of course, joined the advisory board of the African Commission's Youth Division. So we'll be keeping tabs on this particular set, because we want to see how they will be able to influence youth issues going forward. But let's take a break.